Hello ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to my channel for another Hot Toys figure review. Now today I'm extremely excited to bring you Thanos, the figure that everyone has been waiting for from Infinity War, and let me just say, this figure does not disappoint. Now before we begin, I want to say a huge thank you to the man who can over in Hong Kong, Eric Lee, for picking me up this figure in record time. With it being a crazy time over there with Chinese New Year, post office being closed, he still managed to get it to me super quickly. I want to say a huge thank you. His link is down in the description below, as well as the Mint and Sealbox podcast and Justin's collector group, the brand new collector group where we all come together, chat figures, share photos of our collections, and just generally have a great time. Now, enough of that. What we're going to do is get all of Thanos' accessories out here and take a look at everything he comes with. Alright, now taking a look at Thanos' accessories, you can see he does not come with a hell of a lot of stuff, and don't worry, I will show you the backdrop piece separately because basically it wouldn't fit in this shot right here. So let's first take a look at the alternate arm piece he does come with, and it also does include the Infinity Gauntlet. It is really, really well done. The only bit that I'm a little bit worried about is the fact that this bicep looks a little bit funky. I know there are photos of Arnie from back in the day with arms that look like this, but I think the bicep just ends a little bit too abruptly. I think it should have tapered down a little bit more, and then it would have looked a little bit more humanoid, but by any means, this is not a terrible piece. This is still a really, really nicely done piece, and the detail on the Infinity Gauntlet is stunning as you would expect. It's really, really well painted and detailed. You can see there's this pitting effect on the metal itself, and you can actually light up the Infinity Gauntlet. I don't know why I said that like it was a surprise. Of course you can light up the Infinity Gauntlet. This is Hot Toys, and as you can see, the light isn't overly bright. It is right at the center there, but not on the outer gems, and the reason for that is the fact that it's just a light on the end of the ball joint there, like the old school Iron Man figures. So it lights up the first bit, and then the light sort of dies down towards the ends. You can angle it around to get them lit up a little bit more, but it's not perfect, and that's a little bit frustrating, but it's not too terribly bad because, let's be honest, not everyone's going to have batteries in this anyway. Now let's have a look at these head sculpts because they are absolutely glorious. Hot Toys have nailed the likeness of Josh Brolin or Thanos from Infinity War. I mean, what more could you want out of a Thanos head sculpt? A lot of people were saying that it's not spot on. I think it absolutely is spot on. This looks exactly like the film. When you go and look at those promo pics by BG Toy Art or Alex Brooks, his photography makes this figure shine, and it definitely does look like it is pulled straight out of the film. I specifically like this one right here because it has a little bit more expression, but even this one here has a little bit of a smirk to it, which I do really, really like. Those head sculpts are awesome. Now, he does come with 2 additional hands as well. Nothing really to write home about here. Just a relaxed one and a more of a sort of gripping one there. They are painted really nicely, and they have that skin speckling texture that Hot Toys is known for. Really, really well done on the hands there. Now, the final thing that he does come with, aside from the actual backdrop piece, is the really large, overly large, I should say, display base. I really wish they'd gone with a smaller one. Still the hexagonal shape, but just a little bit bigger, like the ones that we've already gotten from Infinity War. Like maybe just, you know, the center of this rather than this sort of extraneous edge pieces. It's really big, is what I'm trying to say, and I don't think that is necessary. So it comes with a ground piece that's meant to replicate Titan, and also just an Infinity War style one with the Infinity Gauntlet. And I think this is going to look really, really nice with the rest of the display bases all lined up, and I will have photos on my Instagram of how that looks eventually. I'll put it in my story section so you guys can get a look at that, but basically it's going to be a really, really nice display, and all the display bases mesh really well together. Now he also does come with a clear crotch grabbing rod piece that you can install on the base so he doesn't topple over, but he's a really heavy, sturdy figure. I don't think he's going to fall over by any means, but if you're worried, do use this, because if anyone's going to go toppling over when there's an earthquake or anything, it's always the biggest figures that hit the hardest. So definitely do use this if you're in an earthquake-prone area or people are running past your Detolfs. You don't want anything to fall off the top, especially not Thanos. Getting a look at Thanos in front of his backdrop, you can see that it really does tie everything together quite nicely. Unfortunately, I don't have the room to display this at present, but hopefully when my new display cases arrive, I can incorporate this somehow, because this just looks mean. You can have him in some awesome poses, much better than what I have here, pulling down that moon on Titan onto the Avengers. That would be one hell of a display to have in your collection. I think it's definitely going to be a piece that works really well as well for figure photography. I think a lot of people are definitely going to enjoy using this backdrop with this figure. Now, I thought I'd do a quick comparison between the Hot Toys quarter scale Infinity Gauntlet and the 1/6 scale one, and as you can see, the color is drastically different between the quarter scale one and the smaller version, and you can also see that the fingers tend to splay out a little bit more on the 1/6 scale one, and they don't rotate inwards. I really wish the fingers could all rotate. I wish they were on ball joints down here so that you could rotate the fingers around and maybe even get the iconic snapping pose, because that would have been really, really awesome. But flipping it around, you can see that the detail is very, very similar. Obviously, you can see all the joints on the 1/6 scale version, but basically the sculpting looks exactly the same between the two, except upscaled on this one here. The paintwork, however, is very, very different. It's even more higher quality. More higher, is that even the way to say it? It's even higher quality on the 1/6 scale version than the bigger one. You can see all the pitting and metalwork. This looks like a real metal piece, whereas this one definitely looks more toy-like. Getting a closer look at the Mad Titan himself, I have to say this figure is just amazing. It's very, very imposing. If you already caught my unboxing, you got a bit of an idea of just how imposing it is, but it is just absolutely awesome. I mean, right down to the paintwork on the actual armor itself. This looks like a real metal piece with all this sort of pitting work throughout. Now, there is one interesting thing about this figure. I thought this was going to be all fabric, but it's not. It's one sort of rubbery plastic piece, which looks really, really good. However, it does limit posability. You don't really have any posability in the upper torso section, which is a little bit annoying. I mean, you can get a tiny bit out of it, but it's just so stiff that it is a little bit limiting. But other than that, the look of this figure more than makes up for that shortcoming. Now, switching out the head sculpt is pretty easy to do. The ball joint is a little bit forgiving, which I do like. I hate ones that really, really do not let go of the head sculpt. But once you put that aggressive head sculpt on there, the figure just comes to life. It looks absolutely awesome. There is no mistaking who that is, aside from obviously the purple skin. I don't think you could get it wrong. But either way, I mean, this head sculpt is really, really good. I can't say enough good things about this figure. I apologize for those of you who really want me to bash this figure. I'm not going to do it because it's just so damn awesome. Panning down, getting a look at the Infinity Gauntlet itself, I have to say this is one of the most glorious pieces on the entire figure. Obviously, you've already seen it on the other arm, but I wanted to show you it on this arm here, and it does include a more relaxed hand. Now, these hands can switch out onto the other arm. They are just on a ball joint. It's a little bit stiff at first, but they loosen up over time, and once you pop it off, you can pop it on the other arm. Now, this arm here, you can see, is one of those rubber arm pieces, much like the Hulk, so you do have to be careful. Don't leave this in extreme poses for a long period of time, and the instructions warn you as such. Now, for those of you who don't know already, I don't really go through articulation in my videos, but if there's something important, I will always tell you, and there is something to note here, and it's the fact that there's an awesome traditional swivel at the actual gauntlet here, so you can get it in some really awesome poses when you have it on the arm. It's not sort of a restricted piece. If it was solid like this, then it would have been a little bit of a pain, because he does pull it around to the front every now and then in the film. Now, in order to light up the actual gauntlet itself, don't worry, there is a battery cover. I've just left it off so I can take the batteries off after this review. You can see that the lights in this gauntlet here are a little bit brighter than the one I showed you in the accessory section, especially when it comes down to these stones here. However, the time stone is still just as dim as that other one. So it's a little bit frustrating that they didn't put individual LEDs in the hands, but then again, that would have made it impossible to switch out the hands themselves. So they had to make a bit of a trade-off, and I think they made the right decision. Now, just carrying on, talking about the detail here, you can see that the detail is all sculpted into the torso quite nicely. This is a solid piece, and I would be wary, even if there was articulation in this part here, wary to bend it over and over again, because I wouldn't want to damage the actual outfit itself. Now, just as you can see, the metal pitting carries on throughout the entire outfit. I don't want to spend too much time going through the stuff like that, because you guys can blatantly see how well detailed it is, but I do want to let you know that this is a really, really well painted figure. And switching around to the back, you can see that he does have his little sort of, I don't even know what you'd call that, tunic piece that comes down. So I guess you could have him sitting in the throne that came with the other one, the older Guardians of the Galaxy Thanos. I'd really be interested to see what that looks like. However, you would probably damage the back of this figure if you did have him sitting down for a long period period of time. Now, in order to switch out the arm on the Infinity War Thanos, it's actually a little bit difficult to do it because the ball joint is so big. So make sure you get a really solid grip on the figure, and then basically you're just going to pull off his arm. And as you can see, it's no small feat to get it off, and popping the new one on is actually pretty easy. Once you get it on there, I think that is a really, really good look for Thanos. I'm still not sure about that bicep, to be honest, but basically you can have him with the Infinity Gauntlet raised up, and you don't have to worry about damaging that arm. Now, our final stop off today is the bottom of Thanos, or his legs more specifically. As you can see, they are really, really chunky. The boots don't look like they're going to let the figure topple over at all. He does have a really sort of solid base. He's not going to fall over unless there's some sort of natural disaster or someone runs by your Detolf cabinets. I think he's going to be just fine. Now, these boot pieces are separate and they are floating, so they do move a little bit, as you can see, which means that he does get a greater range of motion in the actual feet themselves. They are on ball joints, which is really, really nice, and that means you can have, basically it's the split cut boot design, which I'm a big fan of, which means you can have the foot moving independently from the boot, which really does allow for greater posability. And the boot itself is done exceptionally well. The detail on here just carries on. The detail on the entire piece is amazing. They have done an excellent job. Painting, sculpting, everything on this figure is definitely on point. Getting started with some size comparisons. Don't worry, a full comparison video is on the way comparing Thanos to the entire Infinity War cast, so I will save it for that video, but I quickly wanted to show you what he looks like compared to the Hulk. Now, we don't have a Hulk from Infinity War, and I highly doubt we're going to get one, but basically you can see that he is still a little bit shorter than Hulk, and I think this is incredibly accurate from the film. Based off that initial fight scene at the start of the movie, this looks to be about right. I don't think you could get any closer, and I don't think Thanos could get any taller without looking a little bit too disproportionate with the rest of the figures in the line. I think this is a perfect size for Thanos. The first really cool thing about this Thanos figure is the fact that he can get in some really awesome dynamic poses. This figure is by no means a statue. The second cool thing is the fact that they included an arm in the already bent position. That way you aren't damaging the rubber arm that comes on the figure. The third cool thing is, I apologize if this is a cop-out by the way, the fact that Thanos does go really well with the rest of the Infinity War collection. It's starting to look like one really awesome cohesive line, and Thanos definitely ties it all together. The first annoying thing about this Infinity War Thanos is this display base. It is overly large. There was no reason for this stand to be as big as it is. The second annoying thing is it's all well and good having articulated fingers. However, I really do think Hot Toys should have included a hand with the snap, because you can't quite get the fingers lined up perfectly to have him in a snapping pose. It just doesn't connect the thumb and this finger right here. The third annoying thing about this Thanos figure is the fact that he has this really funky section on his arm here that basically looks like the arm is sitting too low, and unfortunately it's already at the top of that section there, so you can't push it up any higher for it to sit flush with the armor, and unfortunately this one on this side here sits a little bit higher, so I know something like this is definitely going to drive a lot of people crazy. Just wrapping up on this Infinity War Thanos figure, I think this is without a doubt everything we've been expecting and more from Hot Toys. This is a glorious piece. It will no doubt be the centerpiece for a lot of people's collections. It's just absolutely imposing. It's stunning. The detail is amazing. Now, while there are a few little niggles that I do have, I think overall, as a package, this Thanos figure is hands down far better than the original one we got, and it's a really, really good representation of Thanos from Infinity War. Now, if you do want to see more on Thanos, do let me know. I'll be doing a comparison video, but let me know if there's anything else you'd like to see, from pose videos to posing with other figures, anything like that. Do let me know. I'm all ears. I definitely can make some more videos happen if that is something you'd like to see. Now, I quickly want to say a huge thank you once again to the man who can, Eric Lee, over in Hong Kong, for grabbing me this figure and sending him out super quickly. Even though it's been a holiday period over there and stuff has been shut down, he still managed to get this figure to me really, really quickly. I also want to quickly say that Mint and Sealbox podcast is going very, very well. It's basically a podcast where King Zachary, V, and I come together, chat about figures, and just generally have a great time. And the Justin's Collect group as well is a great place to check out if you want to share photos of your collections, check out other stuff, and connect with other collectors. Now, that's about it for this video, guys. Like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll catch you in the next video.